You're listening to the Fresh Hell podcast. Fresh Hell contains stories of a disturbing and often graphic nature and is intended for a mature audience. Please don't let your kids listen to this, or they might turn out like us.
Dumb and Busted has been called, quote, one of America's greatest treasures by 3 out of 3 hosts of the show.
Dumb and Busted is a weekly true crime comedy podcast with stories of exceptionally smart and insanely dumb crimes. Comedian Hunter Donaldson has hailed it as the greatest thing to come out of Portland since comedian Hunter Donaldson, who is me, also a host of the show.
Podcasters Allison Copeland and Hannah Ether praise Dumb and Busted as, quote, found on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Just more rave reviews from 2 other people who host the show.
Catch us every Thursday and follow us at Dumb and Busted on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Crime you later!
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Fresh Hell Podcast. I'm Johanna from Vienna, Austria.
And I'm Annie from Boston, Mass. And you just heard Hunter, Allison, and Hannah from Dumb and Busted. They are a comedy true crime podcast, so if you need a break from some of the darker stories that we tell you, we suggest you check them out.
And if this is your first time listening to us, I can only say welcome, sit down, make yourself comfortable, and what can you expect?
Welcome and bienvenue, welcome.
Annie and I never met in real life. We are online friends who found out that we both love macabre and mysterious stories, and we want to share these interesting things with you.
Yep, that's right. So we're getting to know each other, and it's like you're right here with us as we get to know each other better every episode. Apart from the stuff that I make Johanna cut because I'm an oversharer with boundaries as weak as my morals. Just read our reviews. It's so bad. Okay, seriously though, Fresh Hell is definitely a occasionally slightly chattier podcast. We are co-hosts. That's been confusing for some people. 2 women equally sharing, having a conversation with each other. Sometimes I tell a story, sometimes Johanna tells a story. Sometimes we both know the case and then we both will present it to you differently because otherwise it seems absurd. But yeah, we definitely like to mix it up.
Yes. And also our topics are a mix of basically everything we find interesting.
Yeah, the nice thing about that is that there's something for everyone here.
And for all our Hellions out there, welcome back. We hope you had a great week and are you excited for another episode? But first, we have some exciting news to share with you. Since we just passed the 50,000 downloads, we want to say a huge thank you to all of you.
Yeah, thank you. Seriously, we are so overwhelmed. It's amazing. So we want to celebrate this with you by doing a little bit of a giveaway. Okay, so here's what you have to do. Come join our closed Facebook group. You'll find it by searching Fresh Hell Murder. And once you're in the group, there you're going to find a pinned post. And we would love it for you to come and comment and drop your favorite true crime meme under it. And then in 2 weeks, so around the 27th of November, so that's a day before Thanksgiving, I think, we're going to do this random winner thing. And the person who gets picked will receive a Fresh Hell t-shirt. Also, if you're listening to this because your partner forces you to, get in the group and join. Because if you win this, you could give it to them for Christmas.
True. So that's it. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, that's it.
We will ask you for one favor. If you feel like it, and only if you feel like it, please rate, review, or share our content because your support really makes all the difference for us and it really helps us a lot.
It does. And also, the people in the Facebook group are all amazing. And I know a lot of them are telling their friends who are joining the group. What we're telling you is we want more of your friends in on all this because you guys are cool.
All right, let's get right into today's episode. So here's the thing. This week I wanted to talk about mysterious disappearances. People who simply vanished, never to be seen again, because that's a topic that scares and fascinates me at the same moment. Whenever I read about people disappearing in the blink of an eye, it really gives me goosebumps. And I have to imagine one of my loved ones goes missing and then I never know what happens. I think this is so heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think not knowing is the worst. I always text my husband when I go anywhere. I once had a friend say, "Does your husband make you text him and tell him where you're going?" And I said, "No, I annoy him all day telling him where I'm going in case something happens to me." And I also look directly at cameras in stores when I notice them. I'll give them a good long look just in case authorities ever need to retrace my steps. I do, I swear to God. Whoever reviews that footage must be like, who is this chick? Because I'm always like walking staring at the cameras. But yeah, if it happened to someone that I love, if I lost someone I love and didn't know what happened, there are no words, honestly. It would be unbearable.
So my initial plan for today was to cover like 3 or more disappearances in this episode because mostly, people disappear. There's no solution to it. It's a cold case. It's not like things that we can talk about.
They're shorter. Yeah.
They're shorter, exactly. So I thought, okay, let's do 3 or 4 interesting disappearances. But then I started the research and I realized that's just not how we can do this. Because all of these stories are really sad and really unique. And all of these people deserve to have their stories told as good as we possibly can.
I agree.
So, therefore, we decided to give them their spotlight. These cases really need more attention because, maybe out there somebody is listening who can shed some light. You never know.
It's true. The world is getting smaller every day.
And I think over time we will cover more of these unsolved disappearances. But today I would like to start with a case that happened right here in Vienna. And this case was suggested by one of our Hellions. So big shout out to Teresa. Thank you so much. I remember that I knew about this, but not a lot. So today I would like to tell you about a case that happened here in 2007. And it is the disappearance of Aeryn M.J. Gillern. And I want to say that I do mention suicide as a theory, so if this is a sensitive topic for you, you might want to skip this episode.
Yeah, also, as always, if you or someone you love needs help, you'll find links to several international suicide prevention hotlines in our Facebook group.
Exactly, yes. It's a pinned post. Aeryn was born on 28th of April 1973 in Elmira, New York, to the Irish Katherine Gillern and a German father. But as far as I understand, the father played no real role in Aeryn's life. Katherine Gillern, a single mom of 2 sons, first worked as a social worker and later became a police officer for the Ithaca Police Department. And she not only served as a neighborhood police officer, but she also became a certified mounted police officer and that's really cool, was one of the first female officers who completed the advanced SWAT training with the International Association of Chiefs of Police.
Yeah, that is very cool. Ithaca is like upstate New York.
So she earned several awards during her active duty time, including one for Crime Prevention Officer of the Year. And she retired in 2006. There's a reason why I'm telling you all of this. Just hang in there with me. So we can assume that she was a very experienced officer.
Yeah, I'd say that's a safe assumption if she'd had advanced SWAT training.
So her son Aeryn graduated high school in 1991 and he went on to attend the Franciscan University of Steubenville, Ohio, where he graduated in 1997 with a bachelor's degree in theology. Aeryn wanted to become a priest.
A Catholic priest?
Yes, sorry, Catholic priest. I always assume it's because, Austrian, we're mostly Catholic.
Sure, yeah.
Yes, a Catholic priest. Therefore, he attended the seminary in Graz-Seckau in Austria for a year from 1997 to 1998. And in 1999, he received a master's in theology and Christian ministry from the University of Steubenville. But Aeryn was conflicted because as much as he wanted to become a priest, he felt that it would make him somewhat of a hypocrite because Aeryn was gay. He didn't want to spend the rest of his life not only denying his sexuality, but condemning it. So he decided against continuing his education to become a priest, and I think I'm happy for him. I think that was the right decision for him to do so.
Oh, yeah, I'm really sad he had to, but I agree. The Catholic Church is not known for its acceptance of LGBTQ people as far as I know. I mean, I have friends who were really devout Catholics who were actually asked to leave the church when they came out. It was devastating for them. I have a review saying that I hate Catholics, but these aren't opinions. This is church doctrine. It's a fact. I know a lot of parishioners don't agree. In fact, none of the parishioners, people I know like you who consider themselves Catholic, agree with a lot of this, but it is the law of the church. So I'm glad he stayed true to himself.
I think so too. But nevertheless, he did stay a very devout Christian, and he was sure that he could serve his faith and the community as a whole in another way.
Absolutely.
Don't worry. He found a great job with the United Nations in their Industrial Development Organization, and in 2003 he moved to the beautiful city of Vienna. I'm a little bit biased, of course. But Aeryn also, he apparently loved the city. He loved the music, the history, the culture, architecture, especially the ornate churches. And he had a beautiful apartment. And in 2006, he was voted Mr. Gay Austria.
That's amazing. It sounds like he absolutely made the right choice in terms of his life there. I'm also obsessed with old churches. So is Vienna known to be gay-friendly?
Yes and no. I think I told you once already that I used to work in a gay bar here in Vienna. So we do have what we call the gay quarter, where most of the gay bars and clubs are situated. We are also home to the Life Ball.
Oh, what's the Life Ball?
So the Life Ball was started in 1993, I think, by Gary Kessler, and it was a very flamboyant and famous charity ball with actually stars from all over the world coming here, and all its proceeds went to organizations that support people with HIV and AIDS. I have to correct myself, Vienna was the home of the Life Ball because I think after 26 years, this year, 2019, was the last time that this event took place.
Oh, that's too bad.
We also have a huge pride parade every year, and in 2014 the gay singer Conchita Wurst won the Eurovision Song Contest for us. Kind of drag. Amazing singer.
Yeah, amazing voice.
But there is definitely also still a very homophobic side in this country. Maybe not as much anymore in Vienna. I think it depends on where you're at. But in more rural areas, yeah.
Yeah, ew. It's the same here, though. I honestly think people who have a problem with gay people just don't know any gay people. Or I should probably say they don't know that they know gay people. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, so Aeryn is Mr. Gay Austria, and honestly, rightfully so, because he's a gorgeous looking man. He's like tall and fit.
You sent me a picture. Oh my god, the eyes. Yeah.
He has a boyfriend. The boyfriend works in Zurich, and I think he would often travel there to visit him. They had just spent a summer vacation in Egypt.
That sounds amazing and really hot. I mean, like in all senses of the word. Like, I bet Egypt in the summer is hot, and so are they. But seriously, it sounds like he's doing great, right? So amazing job, great boyfriend, loving family.
Yeah, life is good for Aeryn, and apparently he loved to shop, especially clothes. And his favorite place to shop for his clothes was JCPenney.
Sorry, wait, okay. Not judging, I just did not see that coming.
Yeah, he liked JCPenney. I think he said that because of his height and body, it was so hard for him to find clothes here, which I can somehow see because everything nowadays is super slim fit here, and it is extremely hard for my husband to find pants that fit over his calves.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, every time I'm in Europe, I'm like, why are all the men wearing skinny jeans? It's very odd to me. It looks really strange. And I keep wanting to check and see if they're pegged to their cuffs, like in the 80s or something. Because in the States, it's incredibly uncommon to see boys or men in skinny jeans. You just don't see it. I mean, to be fair, I'm a shut-in who doesn't get out much, so maybe it is a thing in like fashionable circles, but you just don't see it here.
It's not only skinny jeans now here, it's also skinny pants in suits, and they have to end over the ankles, and everything is super skinny. And my husband is very muscular.
Yes.
So he has the hardest time to find clothing.
Yeah. When I see my brother-in-law, who I don't think listens to the show, hi Ian, but he's really tall, and my nephew now is over 6 feet. But yeah, they wear these incredibly thin, skinny. It's so strange to me. It's just, It's not the same here. It's fascinating though, isn't it? I love looking at the differences when you travel or whatever. And I'm always trying to figure out if they're ahead or behind, which is hilarious if you know me, because I'm not it doesn't matter to me one way or another. I'm not a trendy dresser. So, but yeah, okay. So that makes more sense.
Yeah, that's why every so often he would fly over to New York to visit his mom, his brother, and then she would have to go shopping with him to JCPenney, which I find so adorable. I don't know why. I think it's so cute.
I do. I love it. And I'm sorry. I'm clearly stereotyping. Not every gay man would go to like Saks off Fifth or whatever. I don't even know. I'm sure everyone loves JCPenney. I don't care where they shop. I'm just really glad it seems like he had such a good, close relationship with his mom.
In September of 2007, Aeryn once more flies to the US, he visits his family, he makes plans with his mom. She's planning on selling her house and to go visit him for 6 months before then she would relocate to Florida to enjoy her retirement in the warm climate, which I can so relate.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. So she's going to retire, spend 6 months in Europe with her son, and then leave freezing upstate New York for Florida. So mom is also living the dream.
Yeah, definitely. On 19th of September 2007, Katherine takes her son to the airport and she cries when they say goodbye, the normal thing.
Yeah.
But all is good because soon she would come to Austria to stay with him for a while.
Yeah, goodbyes are always easier when you have a trip already planned to see them again. It makes it, it's shocking what a difference that makes.
Yeah, but as so often, life is not always as we hope it will be. And therefore, on this day, as they say goodbye at the Syracuse airport, it is the last time Katherine will see her son, Aeryn.
Oh, no.
So on 27th of October, Katherine and Aeryn talk one last time on the phone, and she tells him that the real estate market is down at the moment and that it may take some time for her to find a buyer for her house. But he tells her, don't worry, Mom. Come over beginning of December. Stay with me for a couple of days. And I know December in Vienna is one of Annie's dream, right? Because you want to go to visit the Christkindlmärkte.
Yeah, you bet your ass I do. I want to go, and I'm going to drink too much Glühwein, and I'm going to buy all the things. I don't mind what they are. Christmas markets are my favorite.
Okay, so on 31st of October 2007, so Halloween, Katherine receives a call at the Cortland County SPCA. So that's the animal shelter where Katherine worked after her retirement, I guess as a volunteer. I didn't find any specifics.
This woman is amazing. It's like she spends her whole life as a police officer, is getting ready to retire.
But first she's a social worker.
Yeah. And then she works helping animals. It's like the Holy Trinity.
And she's a single mom raising 2 boys. I mean...
Yeah, she's impressive.
She gets a call from the Ithaca Police Department where she had worked for 21 years. And they tell her that she needs to go home immediately because there's a message for her on her answering machine. And she asks, why? What happened? They tell her that her son Aeryn is missing in Vienna and that his partner didn't know her phone number, but he had remembered that Aeryn had told him that his mom used to be a police officer in Ithaca, so that way he tried to get in contact with her.
Oh, God. So, yeah, really smart thinking on his partner's behalf, but that, I can't imagine really a worse phone call. So, what happened?
So, apparently on 29th of October... a Monday, Aeryn took his boyfriend to the airport. I guess he had spent the weekend in Vienna and now took one of the morning flights to go back to his job in Zurich. And then Aeryn himself went to work, where he stayed until 6 p.m. Afterwards, Aeryn had visited the Kaiserbründel.
And what is that?
So that's a beautiful sauna in the 1st district. The 1st district is the inner city, which is the most expensive and fancy part of Vienna. So it was a public bath and it was built in 1889. And in the 1970s, I think it had been transformed into a gay sauna. And that's the photos I sent to you of the interior. It's amazing, right?
Yes, you did. It's amazing. And I was like, I want to go to there. And you said, it's a gay sauna. And I said, I still want to go. And then you said, they won't let you in. And I said, okay. But it's so pretty. It's so pretty.
Women are usually not allowed inside, obviously, unless there are some clubbings.
Clubbings? Like, they have a dance club there?
Yeah, sometimes they rent parts of it out to people who organize clubbings. I never went there. Most of my gay friends did go there, though, and they all say it's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I bet.
And it's also recommended as #1 tip in most of the gay travel guides that we have here in Vienna. And in the 130 years of its existence, the former so-called Zentralbad was the site of quite a few scandals. That was back in the days when it was still open for men and women, of course separated.
Sure.
For example, in 1904, when the youngest brother of Emperor Franz Josef I, his name was Ludwig Victor, and he was lovingly called Luzi Wuzi in the frivolous Viennese societies, which I find so funny. Luzi Wuzi. And he got slapped by an officer of the K&K army. I have to say rightfully so, because I might add, don't touch people without consent.
Yeah.
Because apparently the royal was a little bit too flirty.
Oh, he was handsy.
Yeah, a little bit touchy. Oh, and also King Edward VIII loved to visit the Kaiserbründel during the 1920s.
Oh, I bet he did, the naughty abdicator who gave up the throne to marry an American divorcee. Scandal. Ugh, I honestly know more about British royal history than I do about American history. It's fine. But yeah, no, that's a story for another episode. But yeah, so that place it's beautiful. We'll post pictures of it in the Facebook group.
Sorry, enough swooning about the breathtaking interior design and the absolutely fascinating history of this quite intriguing Viennese landmark. Back to our story. Sorry for digressing. So, after work, Aeryn had visited the Kaiserbründel and there something had happened.
Oh, what happened?
That's the thing we don't really know, unfortunately. So maybe a fight with another man took place there. At least that's what the police later on said. And that there was a fight or confrontation between Aeryn and another man, and that the other man quite possibly ended up in the hospital. But none of that could ever be proven as a fact, and it seems to me that the police kept all their information pretty ominous.
Ominous? Is that the word is that the right word?
I don't know. All we know is that the last time he was seen, he was running naked or only dressed with a towel from the Kaiserbründel into the streets of the inner city into the cold and rainy October night.
Oh, no. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's ominous.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Now, I tried to find the weather for the day in Vienna. I didn't find the exact temperature, but I did find out that it was rainy and that the temperature was normal for that time of the year, which is around, during the day, 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit if I converted correctly. It was already evening, so we can assume that it was cooler than that. Not the kind of weather where one would enjoy running around without clothing on.
No, agreed.
So 2 students saw Aeryn close to the Stubentor. That's approximately 500 meters or 0.3 miles from the spa. And that was the last that was seen of him. When Aeryn, who was always reliable, didn't show up for work the next day, people started to get worried. And my guess is that Aeryn's boyfriend, too, realized soon that something was wrong, because when he tried to contact Katherine on the 31st of October, so 2 days later, he and one of Aeryn's neighbors had already tried to file a missing person report twice with the police, but the Viennese police had allegedly told them that there is nothing they can do as Aeryn was not an Austrian citizen.
Oh, that's a surprise.
Honestly, that was shocking for me to read, that they would refuse to take actions for a man who was living and working in Vienna for quite some time already. And I mean, don't get me wrong, even if it was just a day tourist, how can you say, sorry, none of our business?
Yeah.
It's so infuriating for me.
Yeah, and here, I don't know if this is real or just my impression from a few cases I'm aware of, like Eliza Lamb, but I think it's the opposite. It's like we don't want the negative publicity of having foreigners going missing.
So I checked, because I was interested in it, and Austria, I know that Austria is a very safe country. We have a very low crime rate. I checked the statistics, and in total, as of June of 2019, there are, at the moment, 1,018 people missing. So 11,000 people are reported missing each year, but you know how it is. Most of them can be found very soon afterwards. This 1,018 are the unsolved cases, and the oldest case goes back to 1964. And when I read that, I was like, that number is shocking. We are a small country.
Yeah.
But then I thought, okay, for a country with almost 9 million people living here, it's not that high. Because, as I said, it goes back to 1964 already,
Sure.
so I think.
And a lot of missing people, some of them do just move somewhere else and start.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like people that are just vanished.
Yeah.
But still, it's weird that the police acted like that.
I agree.
Wait, the police behavior gets even worse.
Oh, no.
Because on the 1st of November, Katherine flew to Vienna to obviously start looking for her son. And there she met with police investigators, and they told her that they think her son had found out that he was HIV positive and that he committed spontaneous suicide by jumping in the Danube.
What?
Yeah. Now I have to say 2 things here. First of all, it appears as if her son had been tested only a short time before this night at the Kaiserbründel, and that the results came back negative. And we know that, first of all, from Aeryn's boyfriend, and also because when Katherine picked up Aeryn's belongings from the police, so, you know, his backpack and his clothes that he had left at the spa, she found the negative results in his pocket.
Oh.
So, no, doesn't seem likely that he had contracted the disease. Second of all, the Danube is so far from where he was last seen. So he was close to the so-called River Wien. Honestly, I don't know how deep it was that night, but usually that would be not the place to drown. What the police means when they say he jumped into the Danube is that he would have gone to the Danube Canal. That's the southern branch of the Danube, and the closest point would be 1.3 kilometers or 0.8 miles from the Kaiserbründel. And nobody saw him running there after the Stubentor. A tall, naked man. Yeah, I don't buy that.
Yeah, nope.
I mean, a whole incident didn't take place in the middle of the night where I know Vienna really can feel absolutely empty. It was in the late evening.
Right. And it's a busy city. It's like if you're a tall, bald, good-looking man running naked.
During the evening, it's not that busy, not even in the inner city, but there are still people on the street.
Somebody would have seen something.
Somebody would have seen him, yeah.
Because it's not even You know, like in like the Madeleine McCann disappearance, for example, it was like, well, I saw a man and I think he was about, I mean, this is like tall, bald, beautiful,
it's a tall,
naked man. Like,
yeah.
Everyone's going to notice that.
That's what I think, yeah. The whole incident, as I said, it didn't take place in the middle of the night. Vienna really can feel absolutely empty when it's like midnight or something. The other thing, yes, you could definitely jump into the canal and drown, but I cannot imagine him not being found there. I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but this morning, I did talk to a friend about this case because she asked me, what's the next case you're going to do on your podcast? And I told her, and she is a born Viennese. And when I told her that story, she raised her eyebrows and she too thinks that he would have been found then.
Yeah.
And she reminded me that in January of 2018, a young man fell into the canal pretty much in the same area Aeryn would have jumped in. And that young man drowned, but he was found not too long after. So it's not like the current there is crazy strong and it just
washed him out immediately.
Yeah. So I think for Aeryn to completely disappear there, it seems so unlikely to me.
Yeah, it doesn't seem likely at all.
I mean, of course, that implies that they would have been, really looking for him, even with divers and everything. But it seems that nothing like that had happened. But we hear more about that now. Oh, by the way, the police also stated that night a fisherman had called stating that he had just seen the body of a naked bald man drifting past him in the Danube Canal.
Oh.
But it looks like that was a lie by the police and that no such call was ever made.
What?
And also, as somebody who's living in Vienna for a very long time, and I know the area because that's where all the bars are, lots of going out happening there.
Sure.
A fisher, end of October, in the evening when it's already dark, in that spot.
Yeah.
I don't buy it.
No, there are places in the world where people fish all the time, like certain places in Florida where, sure.
I'm gonna post some photos of that area and...
Yeah.
Yeah, and Katherine, she would agree with me because she didn't buy any of that either. But all of her attempts to find out more of what had happened to her son got blocked by the police pretty much. And she wrote in an open letter about her experience with them. Annie, I have a surprise for you. Because remember the email I sent you but asked you not to open?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, you can open it now.
Okay.
It is the complete open letter by Aeryn Gillern. And honestly, I would love for you to read it to our audience because I think it makes so much more sense if somebody with an American accent does that.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry if this seems to be very long. I was thinking of shortening it and, to only read excerpts. But honestly, I think it's important that the mother's words are heard completely. And for all of our listeners, if you want to read the letter afterwards again, you can find the letter on her webpage. As always, you will find all of our sources in our Facebook group.
Okay. All right. So on December 5th, she wrote, Chief Tikal, 12 weeks ago yesterday, my son disappeared. On Wednesday, it will be 12 weeks since I received the phone call that would change my life forever. I am feeling no less frustrated, anxious, angry, sad, numb, confused than I was 82 days ago when I first received the call from UNIDO saying that my son was missing. I will start by apologizing for not writing you earlier to thank you for taking the time to meet with me and listen to my concerns. I felt that you were sincere and not putting on an act for my benefit. You had all the qualities that I had expected from the investigators in your department. You made me feel comfortable with the way that you spoke to me, your willingness to make eye contact with me, and your physical gestures all relayed that you were definitely interested in what I was saying. You showed empathy, which prior to our meeting, I had not experienced from your police department, and I feel you were honest in your responses to me. You never became defensive, but truly listened. I was and remain impressed and grateful to you. Having said that, I am still very angry, shocked, and saddened by the way I was treated by the investigators assigned to this case, especially Mr. Weiss and Lieutenant Heimeder. I have avoided writing this for several weeks as I fear my speaking out will hurt the investigation of my son's disappearance by making members of your department angry. After several weeks, I've come to the conclusion that nothing can damage the investigation any more than it already has, and that as a mother, I have the right to demand justice as well as the moral responsibility to speak out. Since I have been home, I have met with and spoken to numerous law enforcement officials. I have relayed to them the circumstances of my son's disappearance as well as the response, or lack thereof, of the Vienna Police Department. None seem to understand why there has not been more of a push to find out what happened at the Kaiserbrundel that evening, and all are aghast at the way I was treated. They also don't understand why friends, family members, people from his job, or anyone that knew my son were not interviewed. I have also spoken to numerous mental health experts, psychiatrists, psychologists, etc., who have never heard of, quote, spontaneous suicide, end quote. And I don't believe that running naked from a building for numerous blocks and jumping into a river would ever be considered spontaneous. They also don't feel that my son would have been planning for the future, for example, purchasing grocery items, plane tickets, doing laundry, dropping off dry cleaning, etc., if he was planning on committing suicide. They also ask what happened to him at the sauna. I met with and spoke with over 50 of his friends and coworkers while in Vienna, and I have received emails from many others since my return. None of them believe that he committed suicide. I have not heard one single person in Vienna or here in the States who knew my son through his job at UNIDO or socially through his courses at Webster University, the gym, etc., including his doctor, that say he felt he was depressed, overwhelmed, or suicidal. Not one person. Just the opposite. Everyone talks about his love of life, his plans to do more traveling, his plans to work on another master's degree from Webster University, his goals at work, his love of his family. On October 21st, I spoke with him for over an hour on the phone. We talked about my coming to visit him for Christmas holidays and also about me selling my house and coming to stay with him for a couple of months before I bought a new house. On October 27th, we spoke again briefly when I called to update him on the status of selling the house. My son had also spent 10 days visiting me at home in September 2007, during which time he shopped for clothes and shoes to take back to Vienna. While I was in Vienna, I had the opportunity to meet with my son's doctor, Michael Moser. Johanna, I'm going to need your help with that one.
Dr. Michael Moser, Kratowierstraße 851.
Okay. Dr. Moser stated that he knew my son very well, had seen him the week prior to his disappearance, and said that my son was not suicidal. He went on to say that my son talked about adding additional courses through Webster University and talked about traveling. In other words, as the doctor put it, my son talked about the future. I stressed this as the investigators' theory for some time was that my son had received bad medical news and that is why he had run out of the sauna. You may not be aware of this, but in my son's belongings that the investigators had picked up from the Kaiserbündel on November 1st, 2007 was the lab results from my son's blood work. The lab results were dated October 29, 2007, the day he disappeared. The lab results were all negative. I have attached a scan of this document. On November 6, 2007, at approximately 13:30 hours, I was given my son's possessions by Investigator Weiss in his office in the presence of UN Security Lieutenant Onstein. I did not go through everything in his bag at that time, as I was extremely overwhelmed and sat on the floor holding my son's clothing and the crucifix that he always wore attached to his trousers. But at that meeting, Investigator Weiss said that my son had committed suicide because he was, quote, HIV positive and that my son had received the results the morning he disappeared. This was relayed to me by Lieutenant Onstein. It wasn't until late that evening when I was back at my son's apartment that I was able to go through his belongings, and at that time I found the lab results that had been with the police for 5 days. Didn't they bother looking through his belongings to see if there were any clues to his disappearance? If you thought that someone committed suicide, wouldn't you look for a suicide note? As I told you during our meeting, this was also the day Investigator Weiss decided to deliver the news that my son was, quote, violent. This was after I had sat on the floor crying uncontrollably while holding my son's belongings and had to be helped to my feet by Lieutenant Onstein. As you and I both know, Investigator Weiss has since retracted that by saying he had the wrong information. I cannot get over the insensitivity of this man to tell me something that he, quote, had heard, and especially having sat there and watched me emotionally devastated. This was intentional and sadistic. I watched the expression of Lieutenant Onstein, and I know that afterwards his demeanor had changed. Thanks to Investigator Weiss, Lieutenant Onstein walked out of that meeting believing my son was violent, and I walked out knowing that I would probably never know what happened to my son, as the people I was supposed to be able to trust were not to be trusted, and would resort to saying anything to demean the value of my son. The following week, my younger son, Mrs. Radix, and myself met with another investigator. On that day, Lieutenant Highmater sat in on a meeting with an investigator whose name I don't know. Lieutenant Highmater was extremely defensive, yelling at me, asking me why I was uncooperative. This was in response to me asking the UNIDO translator, psychologist Angelika Radix, what the investigator was saying to her. Lieutenant Heimater also yelled at my son and slapped him on the back of his head. Not hard, but he had no right to touch my son. My son had said nothing. He had lit a cigarette, which he thought was okay, as the other investigator in the room was smoking. As in the 3 meetings that I had with your investigators, the investigators would speak in German often for several minutes, and then the translators would get an opportunity to speak for a short time before they would be cut off by the investigators speaking in German again. I found this extremely frustrating, as I am sure you understand. As you'll remember at the meeting I had with you, you were very clear that if you found it necessary to speak in German, that you would speak briefly and allow for it to be translated fully before you spoke again. It became obvious to me that the investigator was not letting Mrs. Raddick speak, as she also said to me, and I started crying from frustration. At this point, Lieutenant Heimater yelled at me from across the room, asking me why I was being uncooperative. I told him I was not uncooperative, that I was frustrated, sad, overwhelmed, scared, etc., but not uncooperative. At that point, Lieutenant Heimater came and sat directly in front of me, attempting a different approach, and that is when he explained to me that there were 2 different kinds of suicide, premeditated and spontaneous. I told him I had never heard of spontaneous suicide. He then asked what kind of police officer I had been. I didn't understand what he meant and told him that. He then said, "Were you a parking meter maid?" I found that insulting, but did not react and simply replied that I had been the head of the neighborhood police unit. He responded that that was why I didn't know about suicides. Wow. Sorry, friends and family who are cops, and they all know about suicide, but okay, sorry. She continues. Also, during that meeting, Mrs. Raddick asked the investigator if they had checked my son's phone while they had it prior to giving it back to me on November 6th. The investigator told her that they did not check the phone and asked to see it. I gave him the phone, and he then went through my son's SMS messages, which were in English, and told us that it was clear my son was cheating on his partner. He made this statement as he saw that the messages were from, quote, Finn, yes, Austria, quote, and, quote, Finn, no, Schweiz. Quote, he decided they were 2 different people and that my son was having an affair, and that's why he committed suicide. I tried to explain they were both the same person, his partner P, who used one phone number when he was visiting in Austria and the other number when he was at home in Switzerland. The investigator was not interested in listening to me, and at one point when he was having difficulty translating the SMS text, I reached for the phone and he slapped my hand. This was an investigator who said that he did not speak English, who was now translating text that was completely written in English. As you know, I never had any meetings or conversations with any of your people without a staff member of UNIDO present. I mention that to confirm my relating of the fact can be substantiated by other people, and more importantly, people that speak German fluently. Your investigators tried to say that my son had 2 identities and had 2 passports. That is not true, as I told you. My son legally changed his name on his birth certificate, Social Security card, driver's license, and passport. I have his canceled passport and the changed one. They were done legally in the United States and in Austria. People did call him Mike and Michael. It was his middle name. Is that a crime? Even when I showed your investigators all his documents, they insisted on saying to translators that he had 2 identities. Here are the facts of what happened prior to my son's disappearance. On October 29, he accompanied his partner P to the airport. He received his lab results, which were all negative for HIV. He went back to his apartment to put in a load of wash. He went to work, spent time with numerous coworkers, spoke to and saw his trainer from Holmes Place, spoke via phone to other friends. He shopped at the commissary at the UN at 16:15 hours on October 29th and purchased baking paper and bottles of vanilla extract, among other items. The bag of baking paper and vanilla extract were in his bag left at the sauna. The other items, Doritos, were in his office at UNIDO. He signed out of work at 1800 hours on October 29th after being at work all day. A copy of the sign-in, sign-out log is also attached. I have also attached scanned copies of Air Berlin reservations that my son had made and purchased, some as recent as October 22nd, 2007, for flights to visit his partner in Zurich, where he lived and worked, and another visit to his partner in Finland, where his partner's family lives. These are only a few that I have scanned. I find it extremely odd that someone who doesn't want to live would make plans for the future such as these. My question on October 31st, 2007 was, and continues to be, what happened at the Kaiserbrundel on October 29th, 2007? I know from being inside the sauna myself, having been taken on a tour of it it on December 6th by the manager that there are video cameras. Why weren't the tapes ever taken or at least viewed by police? Why was the guest list never checked? The manager and co-manager both initially reported there had been a fight between my son and a tourist, and the tourist supposedly went to the hospital. They also said that it happened at 2200 hours, not at 1900 hours, and they called the police, but the police didn't come. There is also no record of that at your call center. Isn't that suspicious? And a 3-hour time difference is a lot of time. What I have been told by your investigators is that at exactly 1850 hours on October 29, 2007, my son was sitting downstairs in the sauna with his eyes closed, listening to his music with his headphones on, when he was tapped on the shoulder by an unknown person. He then, according to your investigators, panicked and ran from downstairs in the sauna, up the stairs, directly past his changing room where his clothes, wallet, and all of his personal belongings were, and out the door with just a towel on. The manager showed me his changing room, which was directly at the top of the stairs. And strangely enough, on November 6, 2007, when I was given my son's belongings back by Investigator Weiss, my son's music player and headphones were in his backpack in the bag. How did that happen? His music player was on an armband. Did he rip it off, throw it, and run outside? I don't think so. By the way, it works. It is not broken. Did your Investigator Weiss tell you that my son sent an SMS at 1927 hours on October 29, 2007 to his partner, and that is still on his phone? Did Investigator Weiss also tell you that a friend of my son, Arnissa, called and spoke to him at 1930 hours, October 29, 2007, for approximately 10 minutes? With the treatment and discrepancies in what I have been told, I believe it is apparent why I do not trust that my son's disappearance will ever be solved. On November 3rd, I was told by investigators through a UNIDO interpreter that the canal was being patrolled daily by police boats looking for him. The day that I met Lieutenant Highmater and asked about the boats searching for my son, I was told by him that there were no boats searching the canal, that it would be a very expensive thing to do, and he would not authorize it. As I told you on the day that we met, I was given what I believe to be credible information that, contrary to what may be in the report, that scuba divers were not dispatched to the canal on the evening of October 29, 2007, as I had been assured by Investigator Weiss. Honestly, I find it hard to believe that logistically that a team of divers could be dispatched sometime after the alleged call from the fishermen at 2020 hours, arrive, set up, search, and clear at 2050 hours. I am sure that they are efficient, but that time frame is unrealistic. The alleged call from the fishermen is extremely puzzling. I find it extremely unlikely that the police working out of the same precinct or district would not have some idea of a major incident happening. According to Investigator Weiss, on October 29, 2007, at 2020 hours after the fishermen called, the fire department, canine unit, and scuba divers all responded to the Danube Canal. On October 30th and 31st, my son's partner and his upstairs neighbor went to the district or precinct office that Investigator Weiss works at to report my son missing. They went with a picture of my son with his shaved head, but the police would not take a missing person report and did not find it coincidental that there was a bald man missing, even though they were shown his picture, and that the police were investigating a bald-headed man in the canal. I find that extremely unlikely that they would not have heard of this case if indeed it had happened. The fisherman story also changed several times while I was in Vienna. Initially, Mr. Weiss said that the fisherman saw, quote, a bald-headed man, end quote. Then it became a body floating. Then it became a scream and a splash. And by the time I left, it was a scream. I went to the spot where the fisherman supposedly was. It is clearly a place where people drink and do whatever they don't want to be seen doing, and clearly not a place to be fishing at 2020 hours. As you know from our meeting, Investigator Weiss gave you a report that he filed on, quote, his interview with me. From what I could see, it was a rather lengthy report. As I told you at the meeting, Investigator Weiss never spoke to me or interviewed me, and as you will recall when you asked him about it, you said that his response, as he sat across the table from me, was, quote, well, I was mistaken. It was someone else, quote. How does that happen? Who did he interview and put in a report in my son's file? We both know he lied about my son being violent. What else has been lied about? We both also know that he speaks English, as he displayed quite well when he demanded to know who told me that there were no calls for the scuba team the night of October 29th, 2007. Prior to my leaving Vienna, Vienna, I had people contact the newspaper that printed that my son was emotionally unbalanced. The newspaper stated that all their information came from a police source, not the UN, as Investigator Weiss indicated during our meeting. Another lie. In closing, my son is American, homosexual, and was known to frequent homosexual sauna, the Kaiser Brundel. Your investigators know from interviewing my son's partner on November 3rd that my son was Mr. Gay Austria. My son also filed a complaint against the police in 2003 regarding an incident with the police that occurred January 11th, 2003. Although I would hope that in a civilized society that none of these statements would affect the course of an investigation, I am not naive enough to believe that it wouldn't. I was a police officer myself and know that personal feelings and prejudices do creep in on even the most professional officers. Having experienced the lack of professionalism, insensitivity, rudeness, bullying, and outright lies from a small number of your police force, albeit and unfortunately the ones assigned to my son's case, it is no wonder that I do not trust that this case has been handled properly. Regardless of your investigators' personal feelings or opinions about my son's personal life and sexual orientation, my son was a guest in your country, not a criminal, not a burden to your economy, not a threat to you or anyone else. He was a hard worker who loved his job, had an unending thirst for education, prided himself on staying physically fit, and was proud of who and what he was. He kept his private and professional life separate, which as far as I know is not criminal or suspicious, as I have been led to believe by your investigators. I was also a guest in your country, a guest that was experiencing the worst fears that a parent can have, and I was treated in a manner that I can only term sadistic. I ask you or anyone else in your department what you would expect from a police organization if a child of yours was missing. I believe that you would expect and demand no less than what I am asking for, and that is far more than I have received thus far. End quote. Wow. This is, this is incredibly frustrating. This is awful. This is awful.
Yeah, I know. It's shameful. It's shameful how this woman was treated.
It's incredibly sad. This is, I can't. Yeah. I'm glad that I was able to read her statement out loud because I think it's important.
That's why I think it was important that we read the whole letter.
Yeah, I agree. Katherine, I want to reach through the thing and give her a hug. It's awful.
So in 2011, a documentary called Gone by Gretchen and John Morning was released, and this documentary tells the story of Aeryn Gillern and his mother's quest to find the truth about her son. Now, I did try to find this film, but so far I was not lucky. All I saw were trailers and little clips now and there on the webpage and YouTube. We will link to it. But I did see one very interesting clip, and in there Katherine talks about the police theory about Aeryn committing spontaneous suicide, and when asked why the police thinks that he just ran out of the sauna naked, all of a sudden, and then committed suicide, Katherine answers that apparently the police was convinced that because Aeryn was gay, he was emotionally unbalanced, probably had HIV, and therefore decided to end his life. Doesn't that just make you so angry?
He's so angry.
Is it just me, or
No.
does it seem as if the police didn't take any of this seriously? Why? Because he was gay?
Yeah, because he was gay, or because he was black, or because he had a history of mental illness, or because he had a history of petty crime. Yeah. I mean, I think that unfortunately the cops that first got the case probably didn't care because he was gay. And I wish I could say, it's too bad he didn't live in because there is no other place where this would never happen, right? It happens everywhere, unfortunately. I mean, it's much worse in some places and it's much better in others, but it's still a problem everywhere. I'd say it's a global one. It just really seems like he had the incredible misfortune of having bad cops catching his case. And, with people disappearing, it's like if you don't catch it within the first hours of someone going missing,
It's shocking to me. We have many friends who are police officers, and honestly, I can't imagine any of them behaving in such a horrible way, obviously, because otherwise wouldn't be our friends.
Right, exactly.
But then again, in the last couple of years, a lot of new officers were hired and trained, young people, fresh blood.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a good thing. And maybe in 2007 things might have been still different. I don't know.
Oh, for sure. No, I think that's absolutely right. And I think it's the same everywhere. Like, every profession, you've got people who are terrible at their job, right?
Mm-hmm.
For any number of reasons. And unfortunately, cops aren't immune to that either. They have to work with assholes too. And it's even worse because they're the people who have, sworn to serve and protect us. And so they're held at a higher standard. So I think it's worse when they turn out to be awful with a lot more serious ramifications. And I would say, especially and including the fact that they make the job more dangerous for all of them. So bad cops are making streets more dangerous for good cops. If I'm remembering from college too, the other thing, I think what they're calling spontaneous suicide would be impulsive suicide, right? So even though it's definitely a real thing, I'd have expected there to have been some kind of warning sign or some kind of past warning sign, and it just doesn't seem like there was ever any evidence of that. And impulsive suicide would also be the more likely to survive one because you change your mind, right? So for example, calling 911 after you did something to harm yourself. Sadly, that's not always the case. Sometimes people succeed, but if it was spontaneous, you'd think there'd be a greater chance that he'd change his mind while running naked through the freezing streets.
I mean, 0.8 miles.
Yeah.
He was fit, but it took a few minutes to run
That's
that.
not nothing. Yeah. I don't know. It seems incredibly bizarre. And when all the evidence suggests there was just no past history or current issue with depression, hadn't started any new meds that might cause it. I mean, I think we have to say that suicide is possible, but it's not probable. I don't think it's probable in this way, but I'm not an expert.
Or was it all a cover-up? But by whom? Another thing I read about Katherine, that every year for her son's disappearance, Katherine Gillern travels to Vienna and to hold vigil in the front of the Kaiserbründel, to remember her son, in the hope to one day she will get all the answers she seeks. And she said that one day she was invited inside by the manager and he offered to show her around. And so she walked around inside when all of a sudden the manager stopped and started sobbing, and he kneeled down to touch the floor. And when she asked the translator who was with her why he was sobbing, the manager allegedly said, that's what I read, because that's the spot where he saw Aeryn the last time. And when asked about what had happened here that night, he said that he can't talk about it.
Oh, but he can't talk about it? It's too painful to talk about. I can't, or I won't talk about it.
I mean, given that this person is missing, I assume the last one, because even if it's hard to talk about it because it's so emotional for you, you would try to help.
Right. Someone is making him keep his mouth shut, right? Because I'm just trying to imagine any scenario where Aeryn running in a towel naked, through the city makes any sense. And I just can't. Yeah. I feel like there's got to be a huge part of this story that we're missing. Is it certain that there was a fight in the spa that night?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. That's what the police says. But then again, they said a lot of things and they changed statements a lot of times. And I read that the case files are confidential and that Aeryn's mom could not look through them. And apparently the police argued that she can't look at them because if Aeryn is still alive, having her look at the file would be a violation of his privacy. Which, come on. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's a law like this, but...
But she's law enforcement. You'd think they'd give her the fucking courtesy of acknowledging that she is also law enforcement.
Yeah, but I mean, they call her a meter maid.
Nothing against meter maids. They get a bad rap, even though there's a real nice song about them. Meter maid SWAT team. It's a different oeuvre. We're not offending meter maids. I gotta stop worrying about offending everybody all the time.
So in 2015, the Austrian cold case unit decided to do a 2-day search in the canal around the area where Aeryn would have jumped in.
So 8 years later. Too long.
Too long, yeah.
To be looking in a waterway.
Yeah, so divers searched the area for human bones, but they couldn't find anything. And to this day, the case remains unsolved. So as I said, Aeryn Gillern traveled to Vienna every year, and I think 2019 was the first time that she didn't come because her mother, so Aeryn's grandmother, is now 102 years old, which is amazing.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
And I think Katherine didn't feel too good and too confident about traveling this year and leaving her mom alone.
Yeah, sure.
Katherine never gave up. It's been 12 years since her son vanished into thin air. She spent most of her life savings, I guess, trying to find answers. And I really do hope that one day she will find all the answers and closure.
I hope so too. I have a theory. Well, I think maybe that if there was an altercation, my guess would be somebody in a position of power. Somebody in a position of power who maybe wasn't out, or someone in a position of power made a move on Aeryn, like an aggressive move sexually. And he was like, no thanks, and it got physical, and he took off running once he realized who it was. And I think whoever it was, I think he was grabbed and done away with by somebody in power because of that.
Maybe.
It's the only thing that makes sense. Because people did see him initially running in the street, right?
Yeah, 2 students saw him, yeah.
Yeah, so people did see him. He did definitely leave the spot alive. So it would make sense that somebody maybe pulls up in a car or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think he's alive.
What must happen to you that you run outside of a building naked in October? Even in summer, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's not like somebody just was rude to him or...
No, I think somebody like violently tried to assault him would be my guess. And then once he realized who it was, he was like, I'm out of here. Or somebody was chasing, but it doesn't seem like anybody was chasing him, right? So...
It's just so weird.
Oh, what happened, Aeryn? It's so weird. It's so sad.
So during my research, I realized why I had heard almost nothing about this case. I remember I heard a man was running naked and he disappeared like that, but that's it. There was not much in the Austrian news about the disappearance of Aeryn. Like, I barely found a handful of articles. Isn't that just sad? Yeah,
it's incredibly sad, and I had heard nothing at all about this case until today. I'm going to look for the documentary because I wonder if sometimes it's weird, isn't it? Like, we can see things on our YouTube that you can't see. So I'm going to look for it too and see if I can find it, I'll post it.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the story of the disappearance of Aeryn Gillern.
So take a look at all the photos and share them, and yeah.
So do you have something good this week?
Nope.
No, why?
No, it's okay. I have a recommendation though. So this is going to sound really strange, but I really want to recommend this pair of pajama pants. Because I've been living in them. They're technically men's, so they have a cute little button fly, should you need one, but they also have pockets. The women's versions don't have the pockets. So the brand is it's called Lazy Ones. We're not being paid for this. This is not an ad. I'm literally wearing them right now. I have 2 pairs, ones with lobsters on them, and then a pair with wolves on them that say Howl of a Night. They've got puns on them.
I think I have a Lazy One onesie with a butt flap. Is that possible?
Yes.
A red one?
Yes.
Yeah, I bought it in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I bought a red onesie with a butt flap.
Yes. And it's probably still great, right? Because my lobsters, I've had those for at least 8 years, and I wear them all the time, and they're still really soft and comfortable. I have them in a size large that I have worn comfortably when I was a size 6, up to a 14, 16-ish, last time I was on steroids, and it's they've got an elastic waist and a drawstring, so if you're like me and you're up and down and steroids, and then they're great. Any hellions out there with fibromyalgia? So there's this thing I do, which I'm pretty sure is just related to fibromyalgia. But sometimes seams hurt, the actual seams of clothing becomes really painful and uncomfortable, so I'll go around wearing all of my clothes inside out. I'll legitimately just leave the house wearing inside out leggings, inside out long sleeve t-shirt, with then a regular sweatshirt over it. And I know people give me the side eye, but I don't care. Even my underwear, I'll wear inside out. But these pajama pants, they don't hurt. The seams don't bother me. So I'm going to post a link on Facebook. You can get them on Amazon. They probably have them other places. I just saw they have a super cute pair that I'm putting on my Christmas wish list that have beavers on them, and they've got shark ones. So I'm going to get some more. But yeah, my something good this week are pajama pants with pockets. It's the best.
So my something good this week is not something good in a cheer you up manner, but I would love to recommend a podcast to you that I only recently discovered, and I think it is so well done, and it is called Your Own Backyard. And it also covers the disappearance of a person. It covers the disappearance of Christine Smart. This case too is still unsolved. Right now there are 6 episodes available. I think the 7th one will be the last one for now. But it is so extremely sad and infuriating. Please go and check it out. I think it deserves a lot of attention.
I will. I haven't heard it yet. It's on my to-do list, but yes, I'm going to move it up the list.
All right, as we said before, please, if you have a moment, rate and review us. It helps us out a lot. Subscribe if you want to be informed whenever we are posting a new episode. Join the Facebook group. Don't forget, in 2 weeks, we're gonna choose a winner for our Fresh Hell t-shirt.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and yes, as I mentioned, t-shirts, we also have a merch store now. You know, the holidays are coming up. Maybe you want something for all the Hellions out there. You will find the link on our webpage, freshhellpodcast.com, and on all our social media outlets.
I hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Johanna, amazing job. Thank you. I knew nothing about this case. And tell your dogs I say hi. I love them. If you're our biggest fan, which isn't it crazy to say if you're our biggest fan? Like, we have fans. If you're like our most avid listener and you just identify with who we are in general, and we walked into your house and you were like, yay, this is so exciting. Your dog would also be like, yay, I don't know what's happening, but I agree, this is super exciting. Your cat doesn't care. Yeah. Your cat's under the fucking bed. It's fine. I get it. Tell everyone we said hi. And I really hope that if you're going through a hard time, if you are going through hell,
keep going. Tschüss.
See you next week.